It is sad, but finding a definition of rape culture is hard to find, but according to Women Against Violence Against Women, rape culture is a complex set of beliefs that encourage male sexual aggression and support violence against women. In a rape culture, women perceive a continuum of threatened violence that ranges from sexual remarks to sexual touching to rape itself. A rape culture condones physical and emotional terrorism against women as the norm. In a rape culture, both men and women assume that sexual violence is a fact of life and that it is inevitable. Do you agree with this definition of rape culture?
I agree that's a definition of rape culture, so yes.
Okay. In your experience as a prosecutor and as an attorney, when you think of rape, do you only think of women being raped?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And why not?
Because obviously men and boys are frequently also the objects of rape. Unfortunately, they are underreported compared to women and girls.
And that's been your experience?
That's been my experience, yes.
Right. Do you think most of the people you work around and with think the same?
Think the same way I do, yes, because I work with mostly all prosecutors and people who've been involved in the system. And so we know that rape and sexual misconduct against men and boys are, it's more prevalent than people think.
Okay. How do you think your community views rape and rape culture?
I think the community at large is obviously adamantly opposed to rape, or they are disgusted by it and they are horrified by it. I don't know that anybody believes in the community at large in a rape culture that that's something that actually exists.
Okay. Has this affected how you do your job now and how you have done your job in the past?
Does which affect?
How the community views rape culture.
I don't think it affects how I've done my job in the past or how I do my job now. I think that there's a lot of education that has to go on in the community about rape and what is inappropriate and how prevalent it actually is, but I don't think that it affects how I do my job.
Okay. Have you ever personally dealt with a case in which a male was raped?
Yes.
More than one?
Multiple, yes.
Okay. Do you think that rape culture, as we defined it before, is prevalent in our law enforcement today?
I do not believe at all that our law enforcement has any type of rape culture about it. I believe that there are some law enforcement who bring a negative, a negative flavor to law enforcement. So I believe that there's some individuals who may have this opinion or may hold those ideas because of who they are. But as a whole, with the law enforcement that I've dealt with for 20 years, they are vehemently opposed to any kind of abuse of women or boys or men or girls, and that they work tirelessly to protect those who can't protect themselves.
Thank you. I think we talked about this a little bit ago. The question is, do you think the concept of rape culture exists in our communities, or is there another explanation for this theory? But I think that goes kind of back to the question that we talked about, how we view rape culture in our community. What do you think about that?
Right. I think that's a difficult question because who's the community? And so I think that if you talk about just Licking County as a community that I'm very familiar with because I've been practicing law here for 20 years and prosecuted these cases for the first 12 of those years. I think that, you have in every community, you have a group of people who are very morally straight and appropriate and just your normal, what we call daytime people. And these are your normal, work in the grocery store, they're doctors and lawyers and they're trashmen and so on. And they do not have this idea, this rape culture thought process, and in fact would be highly offended by it. However, we do have, and specifically here in Licking County, we have an Appalachia group of people, and they have a different view of what family is and what's appropriate between men and women and between men and boys, and they have a really screwed up idea of what boundaries are, and in fact they don't have any. And so if you talk about a segment of the population that has, I believe there are segments of the population that have the rape culture thought process, and that's not that's not an abnormal thing for them. But most of them are undereducated or uneducated, and they come from a certain sector of our country or of our population. But I in no way believe that this is a majority way of thinking.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Yay.